People who have met celebrities, how were they in real life? Met Drew Carey a few years ago outside a fancy hotel in DC. I spotted him and nicely asked for a photo. He said not now, but he would return in 10. He came right up to me 10 minutes later and took the photo. Made a few jokes with my camera. Shook my hand. Asked me my name and had a nice small convo. Class act Mr. Carey. In 2005 when I was 19 and had a really bad stutter, I met Green Day. Trecool pointed and laughed in my face. Mimicked my stutter. Said freak out much. And just walked off when I tried to talk to him. Cut to 2014. Green Day again in town. A friend and I decide to go bowling. Walk into bowling alley on street I live in. And are completely surprised to discover Green Day are in their bowling. I walk up to bar to get a drink. Trecool also walks up to bar. And says hi to me. I think fuck it and say hi. You know I met you a decade ago when I had a bad stutter. And you mocked me for it. So check it out. No stutter now. He apologized and said that he knows he was a DCK back then. He probably thought I was so in awe of him that I couldn't talk. Apologized several times. And gave me an AAA pass for the gig the next day. And said come hang out tomorrow so I can prove I'm not an asshole. So yeah. Well and truly accepted that apology and no longer think the guy is a dickhead. Saw Robin Williams at an ice cream shop. I was on vacation. I got my ice cream and went outside to eat. And then he came out with his and actually sat down at my table. We talked for a solid 45 minutes. Best day of my life. Edit. Whoa. This post is getting a lot of love. Keep your meeting Robin stories coming. I'm reading them all. Met Bryan Cranston once at the Bellagio whilst on holiday in Vegas. I was a bit fanboyish and blurted, OMG it's Heisenberg. Almost immediately his facial expression went angry. And he walked straight up to me and actually muttered how dare you call me out like that. If people knew who I was, I wouldn't be in this business. Next time you call me out like that be ready for a barrel. Then he smiled and started laughing and we ended up talking for about 10 minutes or so about BB. Gave me an autograph. I was so happy. Asked him if he wanted to join a few of us for a drink but he politely declined as he was waiting for his MRS and daughter. Cool guy. I served Harrison Ford ice cream once. He was very polite but stern looking. He kept his head low like he just wanted to get his Conan GTFO before anyone realized who he was. So I obliged by doing my best not to freak the FCK out. Edit. I don't remember what flavor he got. This was a long time ago in a galaxy. Right here. When I was younger, my grandmother and I ran into Robin Williams eating alone in a Whole Foods. We approached him and introduced ourselves and he immediately cleared a space for us to sit and chat with him. I was pretty young at the time. So he spent most of the time trying to make me laugh by doing voices. I may have been too young to truly appreciate it at the time. But looking back I can easily say it's one of the greatest moments of my life and Robin has always had a special spot in my heart because of it. I asked Terrence Stamp to say kneel before Zod. For him. He smiled and said, Terrence voice. You know my dear a lot of people ask me that. But that's not even my favorite line. My favorite line is when I rip the top off of the White House and swoop down to the president who says oh god. And I say, Zod voice. No. Zod. Double quote. So yeah. Cool. Met Daniel Radcliffe at pub in Dublin. Really nice dude. I told him I like his work and he thanked me then introduced me to his friends. Chatted for a little about life and let him be. I met Chuck at the Cheesecake Factory in Sacramento shortly after he invested in the Kings. It was my brother's day and he said what? Happy birthday little man. Shakes his hand hey. Get my new friend here some cheesecake. And he shook the rest of our hands and went on his way. Incredibly nice guy. And huge. James Earl Jones is very gracious and at times even a bit humble. Really nice man. Joe Biden came to speak at my school and then stayed to shake everyone's hand and talk to them. Guy was literally awesome. He is exactly what you would expect. After taking a picture with him, I saw my friend in line and waited with her so we could go to the dining hall afterwards. We get up and Joe asks me if I saw him before. I said yeah, I was just waiting for my friend. He looked at her and said, I don't blame you, if I was her friend I would be waiting for her too. And proceeds to tell my friend how she should let me take her out on a date. It was hilarious and an awesome experience. Met David Bowie once. Was torn between melting into a frothing mess and pretending I was cool with it all. I'm sure it showed. I have zero poker face skills. I handed him the papers he came in for. He paused, smiled at me ever so slightly and wished me a good day. I don't think I breathed the entire time he was there. I was so tightly wound. Can't even remember if I said anything. I just remember the pause and kinda smile. Shia Labiaf, SP, had his car break down in my town. He came into my work to buy a drink and some chips and he was a total asshole. A little boy recognized him and said he loved Transformers and Shia told him to FCK off. I'd like to chalk it up to having a bad day. But come on man. Don't tell a kid who's fangirling over you to FCK off. Met Snoop at an airport. He was really nice. But I could tell he was trying to keep a low profile. So he talked to me for about 10 minutes. One of his huge bodyguards came out of the woodwork and offered to take a picture to get me to scram. Took the picture and left him alone. Really nice guy though. Also, extremely long pinky fingernail. Edit. Pic. http. I. imgur. com ct4dqqp. jpg. I was surfing up in Nantucket when I was like 16 and there was a film festival going on. A big guy who has clearly never been on a surfboard before is paddling my way on a big beginner board. Basically barely managing to stay on. As he gets closer I realize it's John C. Reilly, the other guy in Will Ferrell movies. I paddle over to him to say hey and he says to me, deadpan, "Hey man. I'm just trying to hang out here with my surf gang. We call ourselves the Dark Bastards." And paddles away. I've said this before but I met Kanye at the Montreal airport back in the days between his college dropout and graduation late registration album. So he was known. But not as famous as he is today. We were at the same gate. It was an odd day like a Tuesday or something so it wasn't really full. We were both flying to New York. I was with my parents. I came up and said hey and he was very cool about it. We spoke about music mostly. He asked what I was listening to and what was my favorite sports team. He even made me listen to some of his favorite tracks. All in all maybe a 15 minutes convo. I was 15 back then and even though people always seem to give him shit, I can't really shake the feeling of that young and chill upcoming artist he gave when we met a decade ago. Maybe the fame got to him. Maybe it's just his persona. Also, very soft hands. Met both John Bernthal and DiCaprio at the Natural History Museum while I worked there. And saw a couple others. DiCaprio loves the butterfly enclosure and Bernthal was super cool and down to earth. Told I was excited to see him as the Punisher after confirming his credit card had his name on it. And he made a joke about how, as long as there weren't any walkers, it would be pretty good. He has 2 little boys with super long hair that were just adorable. My son was a Make-A-Wish kid a few years ago while he was battling cancer. He wanted to meet Travis Pastrana. We went down to Arizona to watch him race NASCAR and hang out with him for a while. He was almost a little uncomfortable being the center of attention but so nice. My son was 8 at the time and kind of clammed up when Travis showed up. He talked dirt bikes with my son and showed us around his NASCAR trailer. He made a point to kind of get on my son's level so to speak and soon they were talking dirt bikes, Nitro Circus, and kind of joking around. My wife and I were very grateful that he did that for our son. Helped Sandra Bullock at a clothing store I used to work at find shoes for her and her son Louis. She absolutely glowed. Wonderful woman. Would suggest meeting her. So nice. Cute kid. 10/10 would help try on shoes again. When I was in high school I worked at a local amusement park and we constantly had celebrities in and out of the park. Some of them were incredibly nice while others were incredibly rude. My standout moment of someone who was very rude is Justin Bieber. I was putting him on a roller coaster and he was a total smartass about it. Told me that his life was worth more than I could imagine and I have to make sure he's secure. I slammed the bar down quick. The Jonas Brothers are another group who were quite awful. I don't know them well enough but one of them looked me dead in the eyes and told me his sunglasses were worth more than anything I'd ever own and I better make sure they do not get lost. Lil Wayne is also terrified of roller coasters, which was pretty funny to experience. I met Marilyn Manson, emo 16-year-old me's hero, and he let me pet his cat while I freaked out about getting to meet him. He's nowhere near as scary in person as his persona or stage character. He's actually very sweet and somewhat shy. He really didn't know how to handle a young girl absolutely bawling tears of joy just from his presence. Haha. He also picked up my sister for a picture because we couldn't get both him, roughly 6 feet 2 inches, and my sister, roughly 4'10" inches, together in frame. Overall he's a really chill guy. Edit. A word. I used to work in a coffee shop and had a second job in a restaurant when I lived in LA a few years back. I got to meet Will Smith, who was a complete sweetheart with a loud ass booming laugh. Eddie Murphy, who would order the same drink, was always very kind but would come in with a different girl every time. Vin Diesel, who was really nice and courteous. It was especially nice seeing him enjoying some time with his family. His kids were so cute and well behaved. And Christine Taylor, Ben Stiller's wife, who I talked to about 10 or 15 minutes about tea. She was the absolute nicest person ever. I met Tony Hawk while I was working at Congress and some lobby was bringing him in to do meet and greets with congressional staffers. It was kind of a weird experience. I don't think that this will surprise everyone. But he was basically a teenager in a 40-year-old's body. We asked him if the meet and greets were the only thing he was doing that day and he said he had actually just come from a middle school where he did some kind of speaking event for the students. He said it was funny because a student asked him how much money he made and his response was basically, "I don't know. Dude. I have people that handle that." It was very odd because it made him seem very out of touch with reality. But in the most innocent way, like a teenager who recognizes they need money to pay for stuff, but not the actual value of any money they acquire. My brother met Jackie Chan and filmed a bird flu public service announcement with him. Bro said he was a cool ass dude. Edit. Here's the link. Tony Bennett. Nicest guy ever. I was coming home in military uniform. He sent a breakfast from first class back to me. Met Terry Crews at WDW waiting to ride Tower of Terror with him. My friend and I just nonchalantly said hi to him. Plus that we liked his work. No one else seemed to know who he was besides us. He said he was trying to spend time with his daughter and to not make a scene lol. 10/10 would respect a celebrity trying to have family time again. Nice guy. I spent a few hours with Ronda Rousey. She was very pleasant. Tons of people approached her asking for pictures or autographs and she was so nice to everyone. She's patient, professional and personable. Still intimidating though. I respect her. Met a country singer named Dierks Bentley. Knowing nothing about country music or even who he was at the time, I didn't have much to add musically. But we both have kids and he was much more interested in talking about them. So we ended up talking about all the funny things kids do over a few beers. One of his daughters was into superheroes big time and was going to his concerts dressed in various super garb. He has a private pilot's license as well. He's a solid dude. I met Will Smith in the clubhouse at a golf course in Sweden. He was really chill and funny. Like I thought he would be. He was cool with just talking about like the Euro soccer games that played at the time and how nice Sweden was. Really likable. Fortunate to have worked with many A-list actors. Matt Damon stands out among the lot. He is the most down-to-earth actor I have ever been on set with. We chatted like old college buddies on the middle of a glacier each morning. If you are reading this, Matt, you and the family welcome to come back anytime for a visit. My conclusion is the following. If you get to party with a rock band, you'll have a great time with the band member you expected to be an asshole. Also, the guy you think you'll have a good time with will be the asshole. Edit. Grammar. I'm from Alaska and Sarah Palin threw the opening pitch for opening ceremonies for Little League. As I was leaving, I walked past her and she grabbed my hat off my head and signed it without asking. The confused 12-year-old me took my hat back and scurried off before realizing the governor just signed my hat. I met Aaron Hernandez in Boston back in I think 2012. It was a Friday night. He was walking into the hotel I was walking out of. I accidentally bumped into him. It was a few weeks after the Patriots lost to the Giants, again. I went back and talked to him for a minute. He signed my cast. I told him I broke my hand when I punched a wall after the Super Bowl loss. He was cool about it and laughed a little. Seemed like a nice guy overall, honestly. It was wicked crowded and a Friday night, but he waited for me to find a Sharpie at the hotel counter. Looking back, I'm glad he didn't shoot me in the f-king face for bumping into him. Took a leak at a urinal next to an extremely drunk Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh's South Side. When he missed the pisser almost entirely, he muttered, "Eyes mostly closed. Can't win 'em all." Double quote. Met Adam Sandler once in a restaurant in New York City. We were out to dinner for a friend's bachelor party. A group of about a dozen guys. Adam stopped by our table and said congrats to the groom-to-be and asked some genuine questions about where we were all from and what we do. He then took a few moments to tell us that he had seen us earlier having fun and laughing together and about how important that is in life. Being with friends and laughing and enjoying our time together. Kinda sounds cheesy now, but in the moment it was very sincere and meant a lot to us. Overall it was maybe a 5-10 minute interaction, but something none of us will ever forget. Paul Dano and I were in a mutual friend's wedding together. He was very down to earth and cool. We talked about MoMA in New York. 10/10 would recommend meeting. I met John Travolta recently. I'm a valet driver and we parked in the lot without stopping. It was a sweet Mercedes coupe. So I figured I'd ask the guy about it. Well, I talked to him for probably about 10 minutes about the restorations he's done on it. How long it took to do. And just a bunch of other bullshit. I had no idea who he was at first because I work in Ohio. Until somebody from inside told me Travolta has been filming a movie up here. So when he left I asked for a picture and we got a selfie together. If anyone is interested I can post it. Lol. Edit. Here's the selfie. Alan Rickman at a film festival. I was fangirling hard. I waited by the stage door for him to come out. There had been a showing of one of his lesser known movies and a Q&A. He was very quiet. Reserved but not unkind. He let people take photos. He signed autographs. He spoke and smiled a little. He let me put my arm around him to get a picture. His jacket had to be cashmere. It felt so nice. He felt so nice. He could be known to be a little less than warm at times, so I was on guard in case he was just not into the fan thing. But he was gracious and put up with it all in a very typical cool Alan way. My knees were jelly the whole night. I was a huge Cumberbatch. I met him after he had a Vice interview. This was back in 2014. 2013? When he wasn't that well known in USA. So he was just surrounded by autographers trying to make a buck. They even pushed me out of the way. I just started yelling from the back how much I loved him in all these movies, TV shows, and radio shows. I really gave up trying to get an autograph. I just wanted him to know that there was someone that wasn't just trying to make money off of him and the crowd. He looked up, said, "Oh, you've seen them all. Come over here." Reached in through the crowd. Took the photo I had of him from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And signed it. He said, "Thanks, Frankenstein Batch. You're a great fan." I told almost everyone I know this story. But they don't know how I couldn't even make eye contact when he asked how to spell my name. because his face was so intimidating. I've met Weird Al Yankovic after a couple of his shows. He's incredibly nice and down to earth with his fans. He often sticks around somewhere around the venue to greet fans and sign autographs. Back in high school I actually couldn't catch him after the show. So I went back to the nearby hotel in the morning. Found his tour bus and talked to him before he left. I had spent a long time drawing a portrait of him that I really wanted him to sign. I was still a bit of a super fan, I guess. Even though I was the only one there and caught him off guard. He seemed to genuinely love my dedication to it and talked to me for a couple minutes before he had to go. His whole band signed my shirt too. All really nice and happy to talk to a fan. I looked up to him a lot when I was a kid, so it was a really great experience for me, and because of it he remains one of my biggest role models today. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Apparently everyone on Reddit thinks he is a mean arrogant guy, but he literally stopped eating, put his food down to take a picture with me and answered a question I had for him. Really nice guy. I met Stephen Colbert backstage at his old show. He was very nice and pleasant. Seemed smart too. So not too different than what he portrays on television. But it's not like we were hanging out casually or anything. So he was probably a bit on at the time anyway. We were nobody important. Just a few of us there as staff for the guest that night. He took the time to take pictures with each of us after the show. Met Nathan Fillion. My high school English teacher was a friend of his when they were growing up and asked him to visit our class. He stayed around for a number of hours. Interacted with the students and cheerfully answered questions. Class act. I got to meet Dan Aykroyd a few years ago when he was signing a bottle of his vodka at a local liquor store. Despite all the tons of fans and signing probably a few hundred bottles, he still seemed happy to see the fans by the time we got up there and was more than happy to let us take a picture with him. And laughed when I told him how my family would quote his movies at the dinner table and drive my mom nuts. My dad used to be friends with Dave Grohl. I was too young to remember him accurately, but I'm told he was pretty great. I've met Neil Gaiman a few times, a couple signings, but also one more intimate event with people mingling, and he's a total prince. Charming. Elegant. Acts like he's the one honored to get a chance to talk to you. Love that guy. I met Bill Burr in Washington DC at a drum studio we were both practicing at. He's a die-hard Patriots fan and I Steelers, so we talked football and drums for a little while and then I got a pic. Exactly the same person in real life as he is in the public eye. Hilarious. Humble and cool. Met Anna Kendrick at a tube station a couple of years back. She was incredibly sweet despite being stressed about not being able to find her way somewhere. I helped her out. Also, she's tiny. Like 5 feet. I went to a film premiere where I met David Tennant, Pixie Lott and Hugh Grant. All perfectly lovely people. But by far the best one was Nick Park, creator of Wallace and Gromit. He was so incredibly humble and just a wonderful, genuine person. Had a lovely chat with him. In high school, I worked concessions in the VIP area of a concert venue near me. 99% of the time my customers were just people who had bought more expensive tickets at a Beach Boys concert. However, John Stamos decided to stroll along to my booth and order a coffee. His presence kind of shocked me and I just said, "Holy shit. You're John Stamos." So he proceeded to pull his license out of his wallet, examine it, and exclaim, "Holy shit, I am," before paying for his coffee. I'm old. Do it. Met Jimi Hendrix. Went to a musicians only after party after a concert of his. He was so nice. Very quiet and humble. Met Janis Joplin the night she got arrested for language and temper. She too was very nice to me. Totally fell apart when she got arrested. Had dinner with B.B. King. He was a total gentleman and a joy to be around. I went to school with Mr. Wonderful. Paul Orndorff of the wrestling world. Used to share a bus seat with him nearly every day when we were freshmen in HS. Really nice guy. He's been married to his wife 45+ years. He's a great grandpa. I met Selena Quintanilla a year before she passed away at a meet and greet in Corpus Christi, Texas. I was only 5, but my mom told me she was trying to scare my hiccups out of me by pretending to drop me while she held me in her arms. Selena's sister, her drummer, yelled out her nickname Sal. "What are you doing to him?" And Selena said he has the hiccups. I'm trying to spook them out of him. It actually worked from what my mom said. My sister was born a few months later and my mom named my sister after her. We were huge fans of hers. She was very nice. We even went to her funeral when she passed away. We also met Jennifer Lopez on the set of the movie Selena at Selena's home there in Corpus. Jennifer was really nice too and took a picture with us and told us she was a fan of Selena and her music as well. I learned how to Imgur today. HTTP. Imgur. Combi topic. I saw Roseanne Barr at a restaurant when I was young. My parents and I loved to watch a TV show together. She showed up to the restaurant drunk as tea and belched very loudly as she walked in. I went to her and got her autograph. Despite being shit-faced. She was pretty nice and thanked me for being a fan of the show. Met Howard Stern when I was an intern for WCKG, Chicago talk station that broadcast his show back in 2000. Nice guy. He was going out to lunch and asked me for any recommendations. I told him about an Italian joint that was close by. I was wearing my name badge. And he saw that I have a Jewish last name. He made some jokes about Jews not knowing good Italian food, then left. He came back an hour later with food for the entire intern staff. He went to a Jewish deli. He saw me in the hallway walking back from the bathroom but told me there's food in the office for me. He was like a old Jewish grandpa. He said go and eat. Bagels and lox are the food of our people. Really a sweet guy. I work at a TV news station. So I've met a fair amount of the national politicians when they came in for interviews. Trump and Hillary were all business. Probably were in the building 20 minutes total for a 12-minute interview. Ben Carson admitted that "Are you smarter than a 5th grader" is fake, to no one's surprise, since they asked him to be on the show and guaranteed he would win a certain amount of money. Most politicians were cool. The only exceptions were a couple local state reps who think they can dictate how the shot should look. Eminem came to our school once. I was in middle school. The special education teacher's daughter played his daughter in the "Cleaning Out My Closet" video, if I remember correctly. There's barely any images of the daughter in it. He came in and signed coloring books and told us to stay in school. It was weird and I remember him being super robotic and not at all wanting to be there. I live in LA. So it happens all the time. They're all pretty chill about it if you just say hello like a person. My favorites have been Chris Pratt and Anna Faris at brunch. Though. The cutest and sweetest couple ever. And little Jack is adorable. Have also worked with several people. And never had an awful experience. They're just people. P. Ran into Kevin Smith at my mall when he was filming The Flash a few weeks ago. Cool humble dude. Took a selfie with my GF and I and gave us both a hug. Also met Julian and Bubbles. Julian was cool as hell. Mike Smith seemed kind of bothered. Met NBA player Blake Griffin at a charity event in Oklahoma. He was really cool. Actually quite reserved and really funny. I didn't want to get up and speak so I mentioned I was nervous and he deadpanned. "Don't be a bitch." Double quote. Vince Vaughn was just as you would expect. Chill and funny. He had nervous eyes. David Justice and Halle Berry. Justice was a complete DCK to me and Halle called him out on it right in front of me. She got a fan for life. Floyd Mayweather Jr. He was funny as shit. He was wearing pajamas and a fanny pack in public when I met him and he was rolling in a F King purple PT Cruiser. At the time he was worth $50 million and the car was worth about $2,500. Usher was one of the nicest guys I ever met. He had his baby with him and he didn't know me but he asked me to hold him while he was doing something. He could not have been nicer. Same with Tyler Perry. Extremely polite and very nice. My dad has a security business and he went to work on Willie Nelson's home in Maui. Hi. He pulls up in the driveway and notices some naked man in the yard. When he goes inside to meet the caretaker manager lady, he says, "Excuse me, but I think there might be a homeless man in your yard." Without missing a beat, the lady goes, "Oh, that's just Mr. Nelson." Double quote. My dad regularly goes golfing with him and drives Mr. Nelson around whenever he's in Hawaii. From what I've heard, he's a really fun guy. Met Matt Smith. To note for those who never seen him in person, he is huge and Alan Tudyk. Really nice. Chill people always cracking jokes. Last year on the 20th of April I met Dave aka Lil Dicky in my hometown. He was visiting family at the time. He came over, shook everyone's hand, said, "Hey, I'm Dave, you guys want a photo?" Honestly super nice, genuine guy. My boyfriend and I met Tommy Wiseau this past summer. He came to Philly for a midnight showing of The Room and did a meet and greet. We were one of the first people who met him and he was incredibly nice to us. Talkative and friendly. Even offering to sing happy birthday to my boyfriend during the show. I was on the side waiting to take a photo of my BF and Tommy together after he signed his poster, and Tommy waved me over and told me to give someone else the phone so I could be in the picture with them. By the end of the entire meet and greet, he seemed a little more okay. I'm over this and just wanted to get out of there. But still, it was a fun experience and he was nicer than I expected. Still weird as hell though. Dude was wearing 3 belts and instructed us to go buy them on his website. Worked as a food counter manager of an organic supermarket in London a few years back, and one day Gwyneth Paltrow walked in. I hadn't seen her but turned around to serve the next customer and it was her. "Hi." "Oh hello," I said when I realized who she was. And observed her some coconut cake and made her a smoothie to go. My Spanish colleague was on the till and when she saw Gwyneth she said hola and started to chat to her in Spanish. For those that don't know, I believe her father was a diplomat in Spain and she went to school there. See, she speaks Spanish. For the next few minutes they chatted while the queue grew larger. But nobody gave her FCK because it was Gwyneth. She genuinely looked happy being able to chat to someone without anyone else knowing what they take about. She came back the next couple of days, but by then the paparazzi had been tipped off so she didn't bother anymore. Later I saw the juice I made her in a celebrity magazine. They had the nerve to describe it as snot green fuckers. I've met Tom Hanks at the grocery store a few times. He has a house here. He's remembered me. The first time I asked for a picture. And the next time I was actually looking for something in the same aisle and he comes up to me and asks, "Want another picture?" It was the same grocery store and he was clearly joking.